I'm Laurice Temple. I'm the founder and director of Ripple Effect Institute. We're a small business consultancy where we're focusing on mental health and well-being, but really passionate in working with clients, mainly in the construction, engineering, large infrastructure areas.
Laurice, great to see you and thanks for coming along. You've had a very long history within the construction industry. Can you just tell people a little bit about yourself and your background?
So my background is in project management. I started back in uni with a degree in construction management, and was one of those have bags will travel, and I moved from Chicago, then San Francisco, LA, San Francisco, Hong Kong, Singapore, Thailand, Singapore, New York City, Washington DC, Latrobe Valley, and back up into Melbourne. So all that was the first half of my career, all on major or mega projects in those countries.
And you would have seen a lot of change on that journey, and particularly around mental health and well-being. I know that's an area of interest and you're now specialising. Can you probably share some insights into your views on why this is now such an emerging issue within the construction industry?
Yeah, thanks, John. It's been an interesting one over the years. You know, you sort of recognise the stress that we're under and the long hours that you work and so forth. Like in Hong Kong was 6.5 days a week and 12 hours a day, and how much that starts to get to you. But you sort of normalise it, I guess. Everybody else is in it as well, in your teams and so forth. And wasn't until probably 2010, 11, I started to get really curious in this space. Sort of put my efforts into trying to get more women to come into construction. But when you start to peel back some of the systemic issues that we have, I found that we have the highest suicide rate, double to any other industry. And so when you start to think about how we feel as individuals, and if we have such a high suicide rate, what impact does that have on ourselves, our families, each other, our team, and overall our performance in organizations? And through that, I've now sort of focused in on that health and well-being side, and I'm part of a Wellbeing lab with Michelle McQuaid, who's an understudy with Martin Seligman. So these are top research around the world, and I bring that into now the conversations.
You've been a really strong ambassador and advocate for gender diversity within the construction industry, and you just touched on there about the work, the lifestyle, the pressure, the stress. Do you see that as a major barrier or challenge for actually getting women to enter the construction industry?
That's where I started it, but I think the bigger barrier is how we show up and what the culture is and our language and behaviors, as opposed to what you've just outlined. And so again, I as an engineer love what I do, absolute passionate. I would love everybody to be an engineer. But when you come into an industry where maybe there are times that people are not treating each other well, and it's not necessarily because we don't feel, we have ill intent to those other people. It's, we're not feeling good about ourselves. And so I think, we need to peel this back more of what the culture is and what's stopping us from being our best. And that's a whole myriad of things. And that includes, how it impacts the gender diversity, without a doubt.
You touched on some statistics, and clearly the construction industry has a higher suicide rate than many other industries. What are some of the opportunities to develop and deliver programs or initiatives with a focus on mental health and about prevention, a real focus on prevention.
This is a perfect time to really peel this back and go, okay, what kind of things can we do to be more proactive? Well, one of the things is that going from that unawareness to the awareness and really being open and honest about the impact. So, we can talk dollars, but suicide and mental health is not dollars. This is a heart issue. This is about how it impacts ourselves, how it impacts our families, and how we're showing up for ourselves. And so there's a whole number of things in being proactive. Basically, the research shows that for every dollar invested, you get $3 back. I mean, that is just massive. This is less absenteeism, there's less people putting in claims, you're feeling better, so you're more productive with your teams, you're treating each other better. All that then is a better performance for yourself as well as a better performance for the organizations as well as your teams. But I think the barrier there is us not allowing ourselves to talk about it. And so, just being able to create the culture where we're now opening that up and making that okay to talk about it. And that's massive. That's easy to say, rolls off the tongue really easily, but it is so hard to do.
That talking about it probably also leads to the previous comment you made about unawareness versus awareness.
Mm-hmm.
And as business leaders, tell us a little bit about the work of the Ripple Effect Institute. That probably leads very well into the work that you're doing in supporting business leaders and owners and managers around that awareness and how they can create a healthier, mentally healthier workplace.
Yeah, absolutely. I think a lot of times our biases are, she'll be right, everything's fine here, everybody's happy. We did a survey last year and everybody said they're happy and so forth. But some of the work that I'm doing, especially with the leaders and the boards, are stripping that back again and really being honest. And learning how to be honest is the first step. We know that our minds go into the judgment mindset. And what we want to do is stop the judgment mindset, really get curious. You have to be safe to get curious. This is where the psychological safety comes in. And so we do a lot of reframing and allowing the board members, the executives, and then the team members of figuring out where we're not allowing each other to feel really safe. And I just did a session with the board a couple weeks ago, and there was we had to do some pause moments. There was some real emotion that came out. When this team thought that they were working really well together, what they realized that they were tripping each other up. That was, getting curious and allowing themselves to really figure out what it is, where they want to take their culture to, and really looking forward into the future. It's not looking backwards and being negative on where we've been. It's about being proactive on where we want to go to.
What are some of the, I suppose, the intangible benefits that are not as readily visible until you embark on that journey? What do you see as some of those other key benefits that are not just about the numbers?
Well, I think it's quite amazing sometimes of the energy that starts to shift when you start to talk about it. You're in a really holding things together and allowing things to shift. I'll give you an example. I was in a review recently and I start with a safety moment, and a lot of times I say that safety moment is a well-being moment. And so I was reviewing this infrastructure project up in New South Wales, and one of the guys got on in the first couple of minutes. He just started telling me what's keeping him up at night. And one of the other guys said, why are you going there? Why are you saying that? He said, because I know that's what Laurice is going to ask me, right? Because that's the way I start the meetings. And so, how are you sleeping? Are you eating well? What's keeping you up at night? What's the one thing if you could change it? And so typically that's not a technical solution that's keeping them up at night. It's actually a heart solution of, these things are really bothering me. And so allowing people that space to be able to talk about what's bothering them and allow that to be okay. That's just, and the shift that happens, as I said, is amazing.
To do nothing, in my view, is not an option. We're not going to bring about change by doing the same old thing. So thank you for sharing that. My final question to you would be pretty much around saying, if there's one thing you could change for our industry to deliver a more mentally healthier workplace, what do you think that would be? What would you change? I've given you the stroke of the pen. What are you going to change?
And that's leading with the head and the heart. So that's showing up with compassion and care for each other. And I know that sounds, touchy-feeling and so forth, but it's amazing, like I say, when we start to give each other space of saying, back behind each of our eyes, somebody's struggling with something. And when you start to show up and get curious around that and allow people to be themselves, to explore, to be, not okay, is an amazing transformation in itself. So if there's one thing that I could do is teach people how to do that, and that's part of what we do, and practice that and give each other space. It's okay in the construction industry. I know we're going 1,000,000 miles an hour, but that space is not taking time. It's giving care and compassion to each other, and it's different.
Do you think that's something that's just been totally missed? We've got a very large, ambitious, major infrastructure works program over the next 10 or 20 years. The risk is that we don't keep our eye on that.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, I've made a pact, all these infrastructure reviews that I do, to bring this into the conversations. Any conversation I have with people in the industry or outside, it is allowing people to think more deeply about this and allow themselves to be kind to themselves. It's not just being kind to somebody else, but it's being kind to ourselves as well. To be able to say, I'm not doing okay is so courageous, but we've got it in our culture that we expect, especially men, to say, should be right, mate, I've got it all together, and then hold it inside. And it's not fair. It's not fair to anybody. I think this is now the time and space, and what CCF is doing is absolutely amazing. So excited to be a part of this.
Laurice, we reconnected about 5 years ago. We've had an amazing journey. We've got a great journey going ahead. On behalf of CCF, I want to thank you for your personal commitment to delivering healthier outcomes for the broader construction industry, not just the civil construction industry, but the broader building and construction industry. I want to thank you as a supporting sponsor and partner for the Positive Plans, Positive Futures program. We're looking forward to working very closely with the Ripple Effect Institute over the forthcoming years, and I want to thank you for your continued support.
Thank you, and thank you CCF and everybody else. This is a great journey. I look forward to being on it with you.